Hey, what's up, Twitter? So, first of all, thank you, everyone who's wearing their masks and everything and doing the right thing. You guys rock. Anyway, so this one is False Starts, inspired by Danny Manis, a thread that I saw that he did. Um, so, I haven't seen a lot of information about that. So I figured I would just tell a story, an example of what that looks like for real. I'd want to know if I haven't been through it. First of all, I want to say this is part of a lesson that I learned from my ex. Credit to her for that, for one thing. This was after Devil Wears Prada. She said to me, after a certain level of excellence on the page, it's whichever way the wind blows, you know. So I get the sense on Twitter that there's writers that think, hey, no, all I need to just meet the right people and, I just need an agent and then everything's going to magically just flow and work together and it's going to happen all quick and they're going to see my brilliance and blah, blah, blah. Not true, man. One thing I would say there is you might be right that you might be 100% right that your script is absolutely fucking perfect and you're a genius, but you got to consider the false starts. You should. So here we go. Story starts like this. Example. So I write a script and I go to my circle of trust. They read it, give me notes. I do the notes. I throw away what I don't like. How long does that take? And pay attention to trajectory as well. That's like 2 months, waiting for everybody to read notes and blah, 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 and do the notes, maybe longer, maybe 3 months. Then I give it to my agent. Agent's like, I fucking love it. But hey, I have some thoughts, typical. Some more notes. I do those notes, it takes time to get back and forth with your agent and, do multiple drafts. Then agent's like, great, it's perfect, it's ready. Then you go out with it and waiting, and I feel like a lot of Twitter feels like, oh, I want to go out with it and know the next day what happens. And it's a waiting game, man. Like, it just is. I mean, the fastest I've ever attached someone was I went out on a Friday and Monday morning, 2 passes in the morning, and then a big producer attaches maybe by like 9. Like that is the absolute fastest anything's ever happened for me. Like magic. But that show died too. So anyway, to the story. So I write the script, do all that stuff, and I already said that. And so we go out with it. The agent goes out with it. I'm waiting 3 weeks before I hear anything, and I'm like, it's brutal. It's like, I have no idea what's going on. I don't know if I'm getting smashed out there or what. Finally, the agent gets back I don't hear a word in that time. The agent gets back to me, and I know people are passing. The agent gets back to me and says, hey, didn't tell me any of the passes, only the positive, and said, hey, we got 4 producers who want to attach. I'm setting up those meetings, and then I'll get back to you. So that takes time to set up those meetings, a couple weeks, it's not immediate. Got to work with people's time and so forth. So, so I go do those, or, the other thing to think about is you're going to get pushed too. Someone's going to push you. So it takes time to do those meetings. So I go do all those meetings, and they all have different takes on it. This one wants like, hey, I'd like to cut the sun. This one's like, I love the son-father dynamic. This one's like, I want it lighter. This one's like, I want it darker. And so I'm I gotta process this, think on it. It's gonna be at least a week to figure out who I want to go with. But then in the meantime, my agent calls me and says, hey, this company you met with, I'll say who it is. It was Amblin. The agent says, CAA had a, disagreement with them, and so we're pulling all of our writers from them. CAA is powerful enough to do shit like that, twist arms behind back. So they're out. So then I'm trying to decide between these three, and then I do a general in the meantime. And let's know the difference between generals, between attachment meetings and generals. Two different things. Attachments, they're already saying, yeah, we want to do it. This is just like, let's just shoot the shit. So I do this general, and I like what they had to say. We hit it off, I felt. And so I leave. My agent calls me on the way home and says, hey, they want to attach. And I'm like, what the fuck? They already passed, So then I have to think on that, because I like them the best, actually, what they had to say. And so I had to think on that. Are they really going to be loyal? Anyway, I decided to go with them. We start doing notes on it, producers, right? And that takes time. How many passes do we do? I don't know, a bunch, 2 months worth. Then my agent calls me and says, hey, I have, or these showrunners are going to attach. And I'm like, excuse me, like, don't I get a say in this? And I'm like, anyway, who is it? And the agent tells me, I'm like, holy shit, like, these are the same showrunners that while I was writing it, I'm having that pipe dream, that fantasy, like, if they could just read it, I'm thinking like if they could just read it, I think they would dig it. And so that happened, right? It was like that dream scenario. Like, we see these showrunners on Twitter, and we were like, if I could just get it to them. So that happened to me, right? So so far this is in line with your dream, right? So they attach, I meet with them, and they say the same exact thing I fantasized them saying while I was writing it. They said, this reminds us, like, we both read it and we both agree that this reminds us of our show we're coming off, this hit show, critically acclaimed, reminds us of that, but set over there in this world, in this exciting world. And we think it's fucking brilliant, and we're happy, to work with you. That's what I imagine in my pipe dream them saying, and they fucking actually said it to me. So again, so far in line with your dream, right? Then we start developing, so they're attached, and then a studio wants to make a deal, and so we get that in motion. The agents, we're all at CAA. The agents start fucking with that, but in the meantime, the two showrunners, me, producers, and studio exec and VP, we all start working on it, developing it, and so we meet at the studio, and then the showrunners and I go off, days later, to their house. I drive up to their home in the hills, and nice home, and we're developing by the pool, chit-chatting, riffing, working, and time of my life, great experience. And so then we go back, and we keep doing that a bunch of times, and meanwhile, like, the studio gives us a note, producers give us a note, and we go off, and they tell me, we're not doing that note. Don't worry about it. Let us handle it. Power of showrunners. Let us handle it. We're going to pretend like we thought about it, and then we're going to go back and say it doesn't work. And so that's what we did. So then we go back into the studio, and they say, listen, The showrunners say, hey, listen, that doesn't work. And the studio's like, great, it's cut. No questions asked. It's gone. So, because they're afraid of showrunners at that level, they know that they know what they're doing. They've already proven it. And so, at a certain point, one of the showrunners says to me, hey, my movie just came out. I want you to check it out. And so I'm like, I'd be glad to, show respect, right? So I don't ask for hey, can I get a free screener? No, like, show respect and go to the fucking theater like they want you to see it, and pay the money and see it. Don't ask for a free ticket or whatever. So that's what I did. Saw it, came back, gave my thoughts, said, hey, I thought it was great, blah, blah, blah. And then, what else? Then, so I go to the showrunner's house, and by the way, we're having breakfast and shit. I go to the showrunner's house, and there's a director there, and I'm like, oh shit. And they're like, hey, we want him to direct the pilot. And so I'm like, fuck yeah, So I'm picking up people as I go, snowball rolling. So I'm like, and by the way, they also say to me, like, off the record, the network, we're coming off a hot show, critically acclaimed. The network will make whatever the fuck we want. They trust us. So at this point, I'm like, fuck yeah, this looks like a sure thing, So we keep developing. The deal finally gets made like 4 or 5 months afterward, finally some shit gets signed. And so I wanted to put together an event that is special for the team. And so I want them to meet the number one person in the world, in the world that we're trying to build. That's not easy, but I did it. I pulled it off. And so we meet this person, and then one time I go up to the showrunner's house, and I see this trench in the driveway. Driveway is all ripped up, pipes sticking out, water running, guys, sledgehammers and jackhammers and shit. And I go in, I'm like, what the fuck is this? And the showrunner's like, yeah, like I just learned that my plumbing in my entire house is just fucked. I got to redo the whole thing. It's going to be, super expensive. And I'm like, oh shit, sorry to hear that. It's terrible. And so then, more developing. And then like a week later, my agent calls and says, hey, have you seen the email? I said, no. And they're like, pull it up. I pull it up. It's the showrunner saying, we apologize. Sorry, we're dropping off the show, and we're taking a turnkey show. And so, boom, I'm fucking destroyed. I thought this was getting made. Like I thought for sure it's getting made, but now it's fucking exploded in my face. So you can get right before the finish line and shit like that happens. And I knew why, because they had an enormous bill. And if you're being begged to do a turnkey show, you just walk right into it. It's a job, and mine wasn't yet. So I get why they did it, and jobs are hard to come by. So I get why they did it. And I would do the same thing too. The only flaw I would say is they should have, if they want to email like everybody else, fine. But another creative, I think they should have called me and just explained and honestly said like, hey, sorry, man, but we got to go this way. And I would have said, fuck, I get it. Thanks for your time. Enjoyed working with you. What else? So yeah, it's like you can't, I guess you can, but you got to realize you're going to hit those things. So you're going to hit those false starts. And it's really painful brutalizingly painful when you get that far along and it all falls apart. So, you know, if you want to go through this process and think it's going to be smooth and all of that, I guess go for it. But I promise you, it's a pipe dream, and it's just magic, fairy dust, glitters, rainbows, all that fucking bullshit. You're going to hit these things, even if you're as brilliant as you think you are. That's it. Later.